In this session, we're going to take a look at what a game changer SimpleSeps Raster really is for those of us working with CorelDRAW. With over 15 years of experience of working with CorelDRAW and working in the screen printing industry, I'd have to say that for me, SimpleSeps is the biggest breakthrough I've encountered in my history of working in the industry. The reason being is because previously when I worked, I was always trying to work with the easiest way to keep my spot colors under control. I really didn't want to get into a lot of raster stuff because I might encounter a point where I need to go out to SuperSeps or Super Studio or whatever you have you. Then bring that back into Draw, and I'd be limited on what I could do with those assets when I brought them back into Draw. Now with SimpleSeps Raster, I can do all this directly in Draw, and I can also convert raster objects into monochrome, color manageable, pre-separated design assets that I can work with directly in Draw. A whole new spectrum of design options is now available to me. I'm really not hindered in anything that I want to do creatively. And with our brushes and our other tools from AdvancedT-shirts.com, I'm able to do almost anything literally within a matter of minutes, from the separation of client-supplied raster images that I might have had to trace to vector that I don't now, all the way up to creating designs that are the highest at the high end, and even being able to stay within limited colors. For example, this design is only 3 colors, yellow, black, and cyan. I could actually print this on a white garment if I had a 4-color press and get a very high-end looking design out. In this session, I want to go into working with some of the raster tools that are now available to us because we now have SimpleSeps Raster. So now in CorelDRAW, what is opened up to us is all of the raster effects that are available directly in CorelDRAW from PhotoPaint. If we take a look here under bitmaps, we see an entire library of raster effects that we can now use in CorelDRAW with our graphics, and then very easily set up our color separations with SimpleSeps Raster. I've got on the screen here a Camaro that I actually traced the outline of. It was yellow, but through CorelDRAW, I changed it to a blue Camaro because I wanted to get my design down to 3 colors. I've done a lot of design work here, and we cover almost all of this in some of the other tutorial series on the AdvancedT-shirts.com website. I've got 2 flames I set up with brushes. I've got a whole bunch of effects going on in this text. Coming out of the Fashion Factory, I've got some transparency here. I've put a drop shadow behind the card just to give it more emphasis in the design. And we've done some different things with text down here at the bottom. And then I've got a couple of halftone elements coming out of the design base. But what I want to take a look at is how we can take these mixed designs of vector and raster, now that we have SimpleSeps Raster, and kind of bump them up to the next level very easily by just adding a few simple raster effects directly in CorelDRAW. I'm going to look at this brush stroke here, and if I was printing this, if I was color separating, I'd say, okay, I'm just going to leave this in vector, but now I'm not limited to that. I can go to the next level. I'm going to add a simple effect to this that's going to make it look a little bit more realistic as a flame, and also help it to blend into the garment a little bit more. And I don't have to worry about that because the way we can set up our white bases in SimpleSeps Raster, that blend or fade in the garment is going to be very easy to do. So I'm going to take this, I'm just going to go to bitmap, and I'm going to go convert to bitmap. I'm going to go with an RGB. I could go with 200, but I'll go with 300 DPI. And actually, before I do this, what I want to do is I want to resize this graphic because I'm down here at 2 inches, and that's really too small. I'm going to go ahead and left click here, and then we're going to make this up to about a 12.5 inch wide design. And you can see the pop that's going to come off of this design on the graphic. Now I'm up to 23 inches wide on the garment, and about 12.25 inches wide, about 12.25 on the design itself. So we'll go ahead and work right here at this size. I really do like to work on garments when I get to this stage in the design phase, only because I can really work with what's going on with the color in the garment, and I get a much better idea of what the design is going to look like on an actual shirt. Go back to our flame here, and we'll select that. We'll go to bitmaps, convert to bitmap, 300 DPI. We want a transparent background, and select OK. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put some blur on this. I'm going to go to bitmaps, and here we go, working in raster. And I'm going to go with Gaussian blur. I'm going to zoom out and zoom in here. I just want to see how much effect I get with this. Preview at 11 inches. Excuse me, 11 pixels. That looks all right there, and I'm going to select OK. Let that process. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I think what I'm going to do is add some more blur to this one, then paste it back in on top. So now that I've copied that, I can go ahead and hit Control V and paste that in. Now what I want to do is I want to make this look like my flame is kind of blending into my text here by putting one on top of the other, and you can see that that worked perfectly. But what I want to do is I don't want to have this in the car here. So I'll go to my transparency tool, and I'll just create a transparency coming down right to about there. And now if I bring this down here, it won't look like the flame is on my car, but yet I'll still have that effect of the actual flame looking like it's coming up here into the text. So now I'm merging the flames and the text together in effect. One will be on top of the other. The next thing I want to do is I want to add some more blur to the flame beneath that. So I'll just go ahead and hold down Alt, click one time. I know that I'll have that bitmap, and I'm going to go to Effects, not Effects, but Bitmap, and I'm going to go to Blur, and I'm going to go to Gaussian Blur, and I think I'll go again to 11 pixels and select OK. And we'll take a look at this. Now you can see this is really blending into the garment. A much more soft, realistic flame look, and it's also blending into the text. So I'm getting a nice effect of the flame mingling in with my text, as you can see there. Next thing I want to do is I'm just going to go ahead and select this. I've got the bitmap that was on top. I'll hold down Shift and Alt, and I'll select both of these. And I'll come down here to the X, left click, hold down, right click one time to duplicate, and release, and I'll have both of those. I'll go ahead and take this vector flame, and I'll delete that. I'll select these two here, just lasso them. I'll come up here and mirror them horizontally. I'll bring them back over here, right to where they should be in the design, which is right about there. And let me see, is that balanced? Yeah, that looks pretty well balanced. I'm going to go ahead and hold down Alt and select the one beneath, and then I'll go ahead and I'll just kind of hit Control. Well, actually what I'll do is I'll go order page in front of, so I'll go to the X in the center, and I know I got the wrong object there, so actually what I'm going to do, I know these are the same size, so actually I'm just going to bring this one over here that has the transparency. I'll right click Order, and I'll select in front of, and I'll click on my t-shirt. That'll send that to the back. Now go ahead and select this, hold down Shift, select that bitmap, hit the C and the E key, and that'll center those again. And then I want to take a look at this transparency, make sure it's coming in behind the vehicle, and it is, and it's also blending into my text. So I've really mingled that flame effects in, and it looks entirely different than the hard edge vector. The next thing I want to do is take this halftone element that I've set up, and we're going to do something with that to make that pop even more and offset that effect. Kind of step out of the boundaries of vector. First thing I'll do is go ahead and copy that, and I've got the wrong object there. I want to make sure I got the vector. There we go. Copy. Then I'll go ahead and go paste. I'm going to fill that with a blue, and what I'm going to do is just kind of offset that a little bit from the cyan, and then I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to select Order, and I'm going to go in front of and click on my t-shirt, and now I've got that effect going on with the blue mingling into the cyan. But what I want to do to offset that is I'm going to bring this up and over one more, right about there. I'm going to hold down Shift and select both of these objects. And then don't got them, I got my bitmap there. I can come up here and just click on this small area here, hold down Shift again, and I'll have both of those vector objects. For this effect, I'm going to do simply, once again, bitmaps, convert to bitmap, go to RGB, 300 dpi, make sure you got a transparent background, select OK. And here again, I'll just go with a simple effect, a simple blur to blend it into the garment. Gaussian blur, and let's take a look at this. It looks like I didn't get my blue here. No, I did not. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to hit Cancel, and I'm going to hit Control Z, and actually take a look at this. With the blur going into the vector, you get a really different effect, but I want to have those two together. Apparently I didn't have that. So I'll come down here and I'll hit Control Z till we get back to a vector. I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt, and let's see how far we got to go before we get those again. There's that. Shift and Alt, because I want to get that object beneath there. And that's being a little stubborn behind those bitmaps. So I'm going to go to View Wireframe just so I can see where that ends, and these two are actually overlapping on each other, and that's why I can't get a hold of that. At least it looks that way, but no, right in here is clean. I can get through the bitmap right here. Go to View and Enhanced, zoom in, I'll select this and hold down Shift and select the other one. Now I've got two objects. I'm going to go to bitmaps, convert to bitmap. Once again, 300 dpi, transparent background. Now I'll go to effects, bitmap, blur, and Gaussian blur. 5 pixels and click preview, and let's see what we get. Actually, I want a little bit more than that in this effect. Preview at 8. Let's take a look at 8 and we'll select OK. And let that process. So now I've got a really different looking effect here, and it's a mix of the blue with the cyan. I'm going to make some analysis and see how much cyan am I getting here. And I think I might want a little bit more than that. So I'm going to hit Control Z, and then I'm going to click off here. I'm going to get this blue and just kind of move it here just a little bit. So it's really going to offset with that cyan a little more than what it was. Right there, and now you can see that. Now I'll go ahead and select both of these once again, and then I'll go to bitmap, and I'll select convert to bitmap, 300 dpi, transparent background, select OK. Then I'll go back to bitmap, I'll go to blur, and I'll go to Gaussian blur. 8 pixels and select OK. And let that process. And now I can see that effect, and I'm happy with that now. So instead of having a hard edge vector effect, I've got a nice soft raster effect. Go ahead and delete this down here. I'll go ahead and grab this. I'll just duplicate this. I'll flip it horizontally and vertically and bring it down here into my design. Right click, order. I'll go to in front of, and I'll click on my t-shirt. I'll do that again. Right click, order, in front of, and click on my t-shirt. There we go, and that's got that to the back of the design. Then I can just reposition this a bit, as you can see right there, and now I've got a really nice touch added to the graphic. I've got a nice soft background effect or element here going on. Going to blend right into the garment. I've got flames that are mingling into the text, and they're also going to blend right back into the garment. So I've really moved up the design, bumped it up to another level very quickly and very easily here, working with some of the raster tools that are available directly in CorelDRAW. The next thing I want to do is go ahead and color separate this. Now the design is ready. Let's say we sent out to the client, they approved it. All I need to color separate at this point is just go ahead and select everything. Now here I've got raster, images, effects. I've got textures from the Fashion Factory built into this text to give it an effect. And I could actually do something with this if I wanted to, add an effect to that. We're going to see how easy it is now to go ahead and color separate this. I'm going to go ahead and take this. I'm just going to go to Advanced Tools. I'm going to go to SimpleSeps Raster. And then I'm going to go to my Generate Separation tab and click on HSB Extract. Now, this will take my graphic into another document and begin to process my color separations in another document, because I don't want to process those directly in this document with everything that's happening here. We'll let that process. Once that's finished processing, I'll go ahead and close the plugin here, and we'll go ahead and take a look. Now this is separated in the identical place on the new page. Now you can see what's happened here is that all of the color has been brought out, and we've lost that smooth edge that we had coming into the HSB. But HSB really is just a color preview phase for us. It's a place where we can see all the colors in the design. But when you go through the separation process, that soft edge will be restored to your graphic, so you don't need to worry about that, because we have a transparency mask that brings all that back and also helps us set up the white underbase. So at this point I can see, based on what I'm looking at, that this is going to be a perfect color separation. I might have to do some tweaking on the other end, but that'll be really easy, and we'll go through that when we get there. So at this point, I'll go back to my SimpleSeps Raster, and I'll go back to my Generate Separations tab, and I'll click here and Generate Separations, and we'll let that process. Once I finish processing my separations, I'll go ahead and close the plugin. We'll see that we have our separations here. Now we'll need to do a little bit tweaking. We've got a white base here going into some very shaded blue outside the cyan here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that back, but you can see that our transparent edges were fully brought back, and that we have a very nice color separation here. One of the benefits of working with vector objects that you rasterize and add effects to is that you don't have any JPEG or bitmap destruction or compression going on, so they color separate very nicely here in CorelDRAW after you've added these effects. So let's go to our Objects Manager. The first thing I want to do is take a look at my white base. So I'm going to go ahead and make some adjustments because I can see that the white's just peeking out here a little bit, and I won't want that in my color separations. To do that, I'm just going to go ahead and I'll turn off everything except for the white base. Come down here and we'll just turn off all of these colors. I'm even going to turn off the original background. I'm going to come here and click on the white base layer. Go here and click the plus sign. I'm going to go to my Underbase monochrome. I'm going to go back to my SimpleSeps Raster, and I'm very simply going to click on monochrome revert and bring this back to a grayscale. I'll go ahead and click that, and now I can see my Underbase as a grayscale image, and we can see that that's a perfect photographic Underbase. Everything's in place here, but what I want to do is I just want to make some adjustments to this so that they're not coming out past our cyan, or excuse me, our blue, and we'll go ahead and turn this on. We can see that we are coming out a little bit there. So to fix that, go ahead and select this, make sure I've got this selected, and I'm going to go to Effects, Adjust, and I'm going to go to Tone Curve. I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to go over there to where those flames are, and I'm going to see that I want to bring that back a little bit here. And to do that, all I'll do is just left click, hold down, and just push this forward a bit, and then I'll click on Preview. And let's see how far that sets us back. And I want to go ahead, I'm actually going to lock my preview here. Left click, hold down, bring that forward. Now we can see that we're bringing that back quite a bit there. And I think I'm going to bring it back even a little bit more. I'm going to go to straight here, because really what I want to affect is some of these outer lighter colored pixels. I'm just going to go ahead and push this up a little bit, and we'll go ahead and push this up a little bit here too. Right there, and then I'm going to select OK, and we'll let that process. Now with that brought back, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go back to my SimpleSeps Raster with that selected, and I'm going to click on Monochrome Convert and restore my white base to a transparent monochrome. It'll take just a minute to process, and you'll see it change down here, and you'll also see it change over here. And what's happening is, and there's the file, going out to Photo Paint and then coming back in. Now I've got my monochrome back. I'll minimize this. I'll right click on a white, not left click, remember this is reversed, on a white, and then I'll go ahead and turn my blue back on, and I'll turn my background color back on, and I'll go check and turn my cyan on again, and I can see that I brought that back quite a bit. I want to bring my black back on, and also my white highlight, and you can see that white highlight there. Now I can see that I just about got it, but I probably want to bring it back just a little bit more. I could almost work with this. I'm going to change my background color to a black just so I've got more contrast here. Go ahead and select that. Make sure I'm on the layer, select that, and I'll left click because that is vector to make that black. And then we'll zoom in and take a look. I can see that we're really close, but I actually want to bring that back just a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to my Underbase again. I'll click on this layer, I'll select this bitmap, and I'm going to make one more adjustment here. We'll go to SimpleSeps Raster, we'll go to Monochrome Revert, and we'll turn that back to a grayscale. Go ahead and turn off my black, disable, disable, and I've got my cyan. I want to disable that also. I want to make sure I've got the correct object selected right here under my white base, Underbase white, and I'm going to go to Effects, Adjust, and Tone Curve one more time. I'm going to zoom out here and just bring that back a little bit one more time here. And I'm just going to left click here this time and just pull this back. We'll go ahead and lock our preview here. And we can see we brought that back quite a bit. I can actually kind of slide up here into the upper region and bring that back even more. And you can notice here that we have brought it back quite a bit. I'm going to go up here like that, take a look at that preview, and select OK. Now, do I want to bring this over here this way a little bit, just to keep a somewhat soft edge here where the white blends in? That'll be fine. I'll select OK. We'll let that process. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to SimpleSeps, and I'm going to go to a monochrome convert, and I'm going to convert that back to a monochrome. So what I'm doing is tweaking my base. If I am going to be printing on dark, I want to have this white base set up correctly so that that blue fades into the garment and we don't have any white peeking out from underneath it. But yet we have enough white under it to make it pop. Once that's finished processing, I'll go ahead here and zoom out. Got a monochrome here. I want to left click to knock out the background color, right click to change the foreground color. And what do we have turned on here? We got an object here on top that didn't get deleted. Control Z, and here's my monochrome bitmap for my underbase, which is there. What's this object? Let's select this. Somehow my curve on my background color. Okay, I see what happened there. I didn't turn off my background color, and then I got confused. I'm like, well, what happened? Well, I had my background color on, so when I went back to a monochrome bitmap, I couldn't see the black from my monochrome. So even I can get a little confused when I'm working with these. But now if this is set up like that, I'm going to go ahead. I'll turn this back on, which is this underbase black here. I'm going to take this, click on it, and make sure right-click for white. Now there's my base. Now I'll turn my blue back on, and now I can see that I don't have any white peeking out here, and we're going to pop right out of the garment without any of that blue being overpowered by the white underneath it and just fading directly into the garment. I'm going to take my cyan and turn that on, and there I can see there's my cyan. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my black, and that'll bring that back in, and I'm going to turn on my highlight white. And even if I'm going on a white, I'm going to want that highlight white because we really need that in our colors, and then when we separate, we don't have to print the white, but at least we've got it there to really bring that bump back to the colors. I'm looking at this, I'm evaluating some more, and I'm saying to myself, you know, I'd like to bring this cyan out a little bit and make it pop a little more. I want to look and evaluate some things here. And I can see that, you can even see how the cyan is here in the chrome in the wheel and how that offsets that with a nice chrome type effect or look. I'm just going to go ahead and bump this cyan up. I'm going to go over here, click on the cyan layer, click the plus sign, I'll go to the cyan monochrome, open up my SimpleSeps Raster, and I'll go to a monochrome revert. And then once that's done, I'm going to go back, I'm going to go to Effects, Adjust, and Tone Curve. I've got to make sure I got that selected. Effects, Adjust, and Tone Curve. And this I'm just going to make a little bit darker, just to pop that cyan a little bit more in my graphic. And just pull this down a little bit, and I'll go ahead and select OK there. Once that finishes processing, I'll go to a monochrome convert and convert that cyan back to a monochrome. Just a minute to process as that goes out to photo paint and comes back in as a perfect monochrome bitmap. Once that's finished processing, go ahead and minimize this. I'll come up here and right click in the cyan. You can see we've got quite a bit more pop with our cyan there. So now I'd say that this design is basically ready to go. I've got my white base and all of my different colors, and I've been able to set up my separations here literally in a matter of minutes on a very complicated raster design. We've got vector and raster all mixed together. We're able to separate effectively. Once we get to our separations, we can do some tweaking based on anything we might see that we might need to adjust, and we can do that very easily. Actually, as easy as working with objects in CorelDRAW. And this design would be ready to go ahead and get out to press. So you can see now why SimpleSeps Raster really has enabled me to go to a level in design that I really, quite frankly, didn't think was possible before this time, but now I'm doing it very easily and very quickly directly in CorelDRAW without going out to any plugins or other applications. And we can see we've got our flames mingled into our text here. We've got all our effects and our graphics and everything set up as a color separation. So at this point what I would do is just select the objects that I want, which would be my background, my white underbase, my cyan, my blue, my white highlight, and my black. Now at this point what I do want to do is I want to rename these monochromes again. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one time, and I know that this is cyan, and I want to rename this so I know what it is. I know I did some work with my white underbase. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to click one more time, and I'll be able to edit that. And I'm just going to set this up as underbase monochrome, just so that I know what it is after I pull it all out of here. With all of this enabled in my object manager, I'll go ahead and left click, hold down, lasso everything. I'll hit Control C, and then I can go to a new document. I can select OK. I can go ahead and hit paste, We'll go ahead and crop this and bring this right down across here. Make sure I don't cut anything off here with everything selected, and just double click, and we'll process and crop this back and get rid of the color gamut we have around the border. And I'm not going to need this curve because I'm going to set this up as a comp now. And I'd leave this at size, but I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this curve for now because I'm not going to need that. I'll select that and just hit the delete key, and that'll get rid of that. Now this would be ready to print my separations. I could set my page up as a 13 by 19 or what have you, and then set that up. I can also at this point create comps to go out to my clients or my customers. Go ahead and duplicate this, left click, right click one time, hold down and move that, and then we'll group this. I'm going to bring this off the page, and I can even make a marketing poster or flyer with this actually at this point in time, but I'm going to select this because it's grouped. I'll go to my advanced tools, I'll go to Design Base, and I'll come over here to my Comps tab, and I'm just going to scroll down through here to a t-shirt, and I'll actually go with, let's say, this one here. We'll go with a full back comp, and you can just see how easily I go through all of the design process, even to the comps. And we've got this here. We'll go ahead and make this quite a bit bigger in size and get this set up on the garment. Now this is pre-separated art that we're setting these comps up with, so we know that what we're sending to the client is what we're going to get on press. I'll hold this down. I'm going to hold down Alt. I'll fill that with 80% black. I'm going to change this to bitmap mode. That is a monochrome. I'm going to change it to an RGB. They'll just look better on the darker prints. And here's our dark garment, and I can go ahead and duplicate this, and I'll go ahead and hold down Alt. I'll fill this with white. This I'll add some transparency to. Uniform at 50 will be fine just to make it look more like a white. And now I'd be set to create a poster or a flyer or a comp and get that out to the client for approval. But you can see here that short of the commentary and the design process, I've been able to go through in a few minutes and add some nice touches to a design working with raster and CorelDRAW. Absolutely no limitations on what I can and cannot color separate, and create a design that's only 3 colors, but yet it has the pop and look of a very high-end design. So really the limitations for us, even those of us working with 4 color presses and 6 color presses, can now design at the highest of the high end very easily directly in Draw. We'll go ahead and wrap here, and we'll see you in our next video session.